Supernatural creatures, forces, and events are believed by some people to exist or happen, although they are impossible according to science. These beliefs vary from country to another, and religion play a huge role when it comes to it. In today's video, we'll be talking about the most famous ghosts to ever be known in America. Stay tuned for the last one. Pawleys Island, South Carolina, is one of the oldest summer resort towns on the East Coast. Since it's located along the coast, Pawleys Island is especially vulnerable to storms, and legend says the Gray Man has appeared prior to every major hurricane that has struck the area for the last 200 years. People who have seen the Gray Man claim he appeared dressed in all gray clothing and warned them to leave the island. The Gray Man's origin is thought to be tied to a tragedy that struck a young couple. A young woman was waiting for her fiancé to return home to her, and while the young man made it back to the island, he decided to take a shortcut. Unbeknownst to him, the shortcut would lead him through a patch of quicksand, which quickly sucked in both him and his horse. His manservant was riding behind him and witnessed the incident, but was unable to save him. The young woman was heartbroken. She claimed that one day, she was walking along the beach when a figure who looked like her fiancé appeared and told her to leave the island at once because she was in danger. The young woman and her family heeded the warning and went to their inland home. A storm hit the coast that night, destroying most of the homes, but sparing the one belonging to the woman and her family. Since then, locals believe the Gray Man continues to warn others of impending danger. The RMS Queen Mary has been permanently docked in the harbor of Long Beach, California, since 1967. The ship has the distinction of being one of the greatest cruise ships built and also one of the most haunted. Paranormal investigation teams from all over the world have visited the ship to investigate. Officially, there are approximately 49 deaths that occurred aboard the ship. Reports of scary occurrences have come from all areas of the ship, from the engine room to the swimming pool area. Many of the deaths were very gruesome. Two of the most famous include the deaths of crew member John Petter and Senior Second Officer W.E. Stark. Stark, who died after he accidentally drank acid he thought was gin. Petter, an 18-year-old fireman, was crushed by an iron mechanical door on July 10, 1966. Legend claims the ship was conducting an emergency drill in which the watertight doors closed automatically, and unfortunately, Petter didn't make it through in time. Since then, guests have reported seeing the apparition of a young man in coveralls near the door where Petter lost his life. Odd sounds, lights, and cold spots are some of the many paranormal phenomena that occur on a daily basis aboard the ship. Visitors can join specific haunted tours aimed at visiting the most spiritually active spots aboard the ship. Chicago's history is rich with dark occurrences, so it's no wonder the city has plenty of ghost stories to go around. One of these is that of a ghost known as Resurrection Mary. Mary's ghost is believed to belong to a young woman who was killed in a hit-and-run accident while she was walking home from a party in the 1920s. Countless people have seen her ghost along Archer Avenue in Willow Springs, an area about 30 minutes from downtown Chicago. Mary fits the hitchhiker-slash-woman in white archetype. Legend claims that at night, she walks along the road in her white gown and asks strangers for rides. Those who pick her up say she disappears into thin air before reaching her requested destination. Some also claim they've seen Mary's ghost in nightclubs on the south side of Chicago and that they've even shared a dance with her, only noting something was off by her extremely cold hands. This has led people to describe her as having cold hands but a warm heart. Her name, Resurrection Mary, comes from the Resurrection Cemetery located close to the site where many believe she was killed. It's also the site where she's allegedly buried and where she frequently asks drivers to drop her off. The Bachelor's Grove Cemetery is located near the Rubio Woods Forest Preserve, roughly 25 miles outside of Chicago. The cemetery is the oldest in the Cook County area, and according to many, it's also the most haunted. Visitors have reported encounters with a variety of specters, including a woman in a white dress, blue and red orbs of light, a man and his horse, and a disappearing farmhouse. The woman in white, in particular, has appeared in many visitors' photographs, all of whom insist no one was around when they took the picture. Many theories persist regarding who she may be, but two of the most popular include a woman buried far away, but whose baby was buried at Bachelor's, and the spirit of a hit-and-run victim who died close to the cemetery and was buried there. The cemetery was in use from 1834 to 1989, and today it's open for visitors from sunrise to sunset. Many believe the vandalism the cemetery has seen over the years has caused further unrest to the spirits there, making it a very active place of paranormal activity. Around the world, the word Hollywood conjures images of fame, fortune, and flashing lights. The actual Hollywood, however, has a long history of tragedies that don't often get splashed on the front page of tabloid magazines. One of these tragedies is that of Peg Entwistle, and it's tied to the Hollywood sign itself. Around the late 1920s, Entwistle traveled to Hollywood with the dream of becoming a famous actress. The future seemed bright for Entwistle when she earned a role in the film 13 Women, however, a higher-up later decided to cut the part. Entwistle had been cast to play a lesbian, a very controversial role in the 1930s. Understandably, Entwistle was devastated. On September 16, 1932, Entwistle climbed a maintenance ladder up to the top of the Hollywood sign's letterage and jumped 50 feet to her death. The next day, her body was found with a note that read, "I am afraid, I am a coward. I am sorry for everything. If I had done this a long time ago, it would have saved a lot of pain. P.E." Since her passing, many visitors to the Hollywood sign and park rangers patrolling the hills have cited her alleged ghost. Legend says the smell of gardenia perfume permeates the air right before a sighting. Those who have seen her describe her as having a forlorn expression, likely due to the sad end she met in the very place where her dreams came crashing down. The Bell Witch haunting has spurred people's imaginations for centuries and has led to many movies and documentaries. The story behind the U.S.'s most famous haunting starts with a man named John Bell and his family moving to a farm in Robertson County, TN, in 1804. For the first 13 years on the farm, the Bell family lived peacefully. That all changed in the summer of 1817, however, when the family began seeing strange creatures on their land and hearing odd noises in their home. The sounds reportedly escalated from bumps and knocks to actual voices that spoke directly to the family members. The entity would start conversations about religion and even predict the future. John and his youngest daughter, Betsy, were especially tormented by the entity, who came to be known as the Bell Witch. John would often hear the witch threaten him directly, while Betsy was beaten into unconsciousness. John died in 1820, and many attributed his death to the Bell Witch, who never stopped tormenting him. The entity allegedly came and went for decades, often letting the family know it would be gone for several years, but would eventually return. To this day, the property is a hotbed of paranormal activity, with many people experiencing odd things on the land. Photography also shows odd lights, mist, and even entities that weren't visible to the human eye. Kate and Maggie Fox were young girls when they moved into an old cottage in New York's Hydesville Memorial Park in 1848. The cottage had a history of paranormal behavior, which pushed many families to leave. The Fox family, however, took a different approach. On March 31, 1848, as the sisters were going to bed, the knocking and bumping noises began, as they usually did. The only difference that night was, the sisters decided to communicate with whatever was causing the sounds. That night, the girls determined the spirit belonged to a man named Charles B. Rosna. The spirit was also able to tell them he was murdered at the property, and that his body was buried in the cellar. After that, they attempted to find Rosna's body in the cellar, but flooding in the area made this impossible. The Fox sisters continued communicating with the entity and grew to become famous mediums. Many now consider them the first modern spiritualists. Decades later, in 1904, bones were discovered in the cottage's cellar walls. Today, the home is open to visitors, and the thumping noises continue. What do you guys think of paranormal activities? Do you think they're real? Have you ever experienced something similar? Let us know your story in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to see more from the channel, and see you soon in the next one.